Scott died. It has been a very horrible situation there because Scott's family has completely rejected having Justin be involved, so Cindy and Marcia are with Justin, and that is exactly where they should be, and so that's why Cindy's not here. And Jill, I think, is in Tennessee, so she's not here today. So I wanted you to see who they were and that they're here, so if you have other questions that you'd like to ask them, you can as well. So thank you again for staying. Great crowd, and I appreciate you coming back. Yes, yes. Right, and you're welcome for preaching shorter today so that you all could get out of here early. Yeah, right. So, no, I deeply appreciate that over 5.5 years you've continued to come to Pastor Chat, and I'm always a little surprised, but always incredibly grateful that you do. So thank you so much for that. Before we start, let's say a quick prayer, shall we? Holy One, in your wisdom and in your presence, we know that you assist us in all things. And so we ask now that even as we look at our finances, the business of the church, that you also work in it. And help us to know that you will work with us in it, and help us to lean into you even as we do all that we can and all that is ours to do. Thank you for those who are here and who are such faithful members of this congregation. We give you thanks, and may it all be so in your many names. Amen. All right, I want to welcome all those who might be on YouTube as well. So we are running a live stream of this. And we also have Barb Crabtree, who is our accountant, who lives in Austin, Texas. So she's joining us on Zoom. And the reason that she's on Zoom is because if some of the financial questions get to a level of detail that I don't have my hands on, she'll be here to talk with us if those questions arise. Okay, so thank you, Barb, for being present with us. If you'll move to the first slide, Jorge, or the next one, and the next one. There we go. This is our agenda for today. So we're going to do a financial update, actions to address our budget issues, results of our investments, and then a special announcement at the end. Always, right? Always something that's really good that we will announce at the end. All right, I'll keep having them. So I want to say that, go to the next slide, please, that anytime we are looking at our budget, I just want to make sure that we all understand that we should always, with equal fervor, look at our income and our expenses. My experience, and some of you who've been in church a long time could also attest to this, is that church people have a way of going straight to expenses as if the income doesn't matter, when actually the income comes from you. So the thing is, we have to look at both of them with equal fervor, and that's what I want to do today. And so the rhythm of this particular presentation is going to be that we first look at our income and where we've had deficits, and then we look at our expenses and where we've had overages, so that you have a really good sense of where things are financially. I'd also like to ask that if you have questions, unless you just cannot hold on to it, that you write it down and remind yourself. We will have a question and answer period, but I may answer a lot of questions if you just let me keep moving through the presentation, okay? So thanks for that. All right. Okay, so our rhythm is going to be that, if you'll put up the next slide, we're going to look at our income first, okay? And then I'm going to break down each of the 5 primary income streams that we have. And I'm going to break them down this way. I'm going to tell you some information behind these numbers, and then I'm going to say, what can we do about it? All right? So that'll be the rhythm for all 5 of the areas that we receive income in this church. So you can see them here, the 5 of them. First is plate offering, and that is the largest. That's our tithes and offerings. That's, of course, our largest income stream. We also have fundraising, the ways that we rent our property. memorials that people give, and our programs, some of which we charge for. So those are our primary income streams. You can see that plate offering this year, that what is budgeted year to date, so through July, is $158,654, and our actual is $141,935 with a $16,700 deficit. Okay, so that's our variance in income that we expected. In fundraising, our budget year to date, $21,169, we're at $17,101.15. And I'd like to ask us all to thank the fundraising team, because even though we're behind a little, our first trivia night this year was excellent, and that's why it is as good as it is. So I really appreciate all the work that they do. Our property rental, we rent to HOAs, we rent to AANA groups, so most every night our buildings are being rented out for one or another. And so we get, to date, 2625 was our budget, and we're over budget in a place. Hallelujah. That's a good thing, by $515. And memorials, these covers the niches in the Memorial Garden, bricks, plaques, or just that people give donations in memory of someone. And so our budget year to date was $8,167. We've gotten $3,350. So we're behind $4,800. In programs, we projected a budget year to date $6,083. We have received $4,489, so $1,700 deficit there. Okay, so that's a lot of red, and so that's what we've got to address. So I want to just kind of go through that with you. So we're going to take our plate offering first. You can go to the next slide and look at behind the numbers, okay? Now, since this is the biggest part of our income, when we do our pledge campaign every year, and you all pledge what you're going to give the following year, this is where the biggest amount of our income is derived, all right? So this year, for 2024, we had a total of 73 people who pledged. This is excellent. It's excellent for our size church. And the total number of dollars pledged was $229,964, which is also excellent, all right? Now, if we can go on to the next slide. January through July, I want to give you an update on those pledges. Our total plate budget was $158,654, so that's what we budgeted for January through July this year. And that was based on pledges and non-pledged giving. Our total plate that was actual given is $142,364.86. All right, now let's break that piece down, the total plate that was given. The pledge part of that, what we received was $123,716.10, and then every year we have an amount of money that is unpledged giving. So this is people who didn't pledge, but they give faithfully. It's the cash and stuff that people put in the plate, write checks. So we run in the neighborhood of $40,000 every year in unpledged cash, okay, unpledged giving. So we break that out over 12 months, and that's how we project what that piece is going to be. That average has held very consistently now for 4 years. All right, so we feel like we've been able to count on that. Let me say that the unpledged giving amount is right on track. All right, so that projection was accurate, and so we're doing well there. However, we're still down $16,300 at the end of July. Okay, everybody, I don't want to take a bunch of questions, but I do want to make sure you are following me. Okay, good. We can go on. All right, now this is some more stuff behind the numbers, because I want you to see what happens when different things transpire. We've had 7 people who pledged for 2024 who are now gone for various reasons, but nonetheless, that is lost income. We have 23 pledgers who've given more than they pledged. Let's thank them, please. Yes, that's awesome. We have 26 people who pledged what they said they would exactly. We have 20 who have given less than they pledged, and 4 who have given none of what they pledged. Now, I want to be careful to say here, there's no judgment here, and we need to understand the information because we build a budget based on what you pledge and what we know about unpledged giving. So it's just information to know that this does have something to do with how we end up with a deficit. Okay, no judgment. I realize people's financial situations change, things happen. You know, I certainly know that and have a whole lot of compassion about that. So there's no judgment here. And it does affect us. And what usually happens is people don't call us and tell us something has changed. So we don't know to plan for it. So that's something that you all can do in the future. Okay, let's go to the next one. So this is the impact of the loss of pledges. So the lost pledges in terms of the 7 people who are gone is $11,535. That's okay, so that's the 7 people who are no longer here. And then the impact of people significantly under pledge is $17,835. That's a $29,000 deficit just around pledging. So it has an impact on us every time there's less, there's less than we expected or people leave. So this is, you can see there, if all of that had come in, we would be above our plate offering, not below. So that's, that's a hard thing to live with. So what can we do about it? So as possible, we can meet the pledges we made, especially from here on out. We can ask for some of you to give additional gifts above your pledge if you can. We've already moved to a new payment platform. You've heard us talk about it, PushPay, that is saving us money on fees and increasing income through recurring giving. So we are expecting, we're already getting a lift from that, and you'll see more about that later, but this is something with regard to giving, our offerings, that is helping us income-wise. And we also have the option to continue to draw from contingency funds. That's what we've been having to do the first 7 months of the year because we're running at this deficit. So we can continue to do that along with these other things, and hopefully we won't have to. Okay, let's move to fundraising and something behind the numbers there. We had one trivia night. That's the only fundraiser we've had this year so far. Our budgeted income for that was $20,000. Our net, what we netted from it was $17,500, which is a great victory. I don't want to downplay that. It was just $2,500 under what we projected. And so that's a place of deficit. So you can go on. What we can do about this is to remember that before the end of the year, we're going to have 3 more fundraisers. So you can help us, and helping may have something to do around something that's not giving money. Maybe you can find sponsors for trivia. Maybe you can help us build the things we need to build for trivia. Those would be all things that are helpful, but we need you for that. Our budgeted income for trivia night number 2, which is October 5th, is another $20,000. We've changed a few things about how we're going about it that helps us believe we can get to that, but your help is really useful. So an example, if you know someone who owns a business that might sponsor us, we have how many levels of sponsor? 4 levels of sponsorship. So we're not talking about all of you being the sponsors. We're talking about tell us the people you know so that we can do that. All right, so can you hold your question, or is it pressing?
I work with the CAN Community Health Street.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
CAN Community Health will sponsor events here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. All right, let us hook up with you afterward. That's helpful. The second event, which is actually coming before trivia on the 22nd of September, is A Strange Loop, a night with the cast. I don't know if y'all are getting it, that we're so incredibly lucky that the cast, this Pulitzer Prize winning, Tony Award winning cast is coming to our church for free. And so for us to charge tickets to come and meet them and listen to them and hear them about a queer black musical, I think this is a wonderful opportunity. So support us, come. Ask people to come with you. That's very helpful. And then our pet and nature calendars are coming up. And so we hope from those three things, a Strange Loop and the pet and nature calendars, that we will collect at least $2,000 because that's in the budget for us to collect, okay? So that's what we can do in the fundraising arena. All right, facility rental, there's not a lot to say because we're over budget there, so hallelujah for that, right? But there are some things you can do. Go ahead. Is if you hear of people who are getting married, for example, and especially in the queer community, let them know about our property. We have a beautiful place to have weddings, and they may not be here in the room. It doesn't have to be. We have beautiful spaces for that. Some of you may remember that Julia and Delia had their wedding at the center of the labyrinth, and it was just gorgeous. It was beautiful. So if you hear about that, remember to tell them about this place. If you hear of people who want to have family reunions or business retreats, let them know about this space as well. These are all ways that we could generate some more income. All right, and then finally, it's not finally, behind the numbers with memorials. And I told you what this includes. It's just so far this year, we have not collected as much as we thought we would have. So what can you do? The board is working on a special event. We have a new information brochure that's being produced, and we're working on an event probably around All Saints Day, where we have opportunities for people to come and learn about planned giving, to come and learn more about the niches we have and what they cost and that kind of thing. So one of the things you can do is participate in that. That would be very helpful. If you need to plan ahead by purchasing a niche in the Memorial Garden, now's a good time to do it. If you have people you would like to honor or remember with a brick or with a plaque, now would be a good time. We have bricks that are out here in the Memorial Garden. We also have the plaques that are in the back to my right and your left over there. So if you want to look at those, you can. Those are all things you could do to help. And then programming, we're behind about $1,700 there. And so what you can do, we feel like most of this belongs to the staff. We're doing some things related to income around programs. So one of the things we're going to do is work on managing our store. And whether that's a store that we have here somewhere on Sundays and always on the website where people can buy t-shirts and books and different things, we're going to do some more work on that. And we'll be rolling out a new kind of magazine and a new approach to programs in the fall. So on September 8th, we'll be unveiling that. And so we've also been trying to reimagine how we will do program-related things for the rest of the year to help with income. Employing payment options for ease, that's where push pay is going to be very helpful, and we'll talk about that later. Employ new options to sign up for programs that are easier. We will also talk about that a little bit later. And then increase the added value component of programs that have a cost. So we'll be working on how do we add value to that so that it feels worth it to pay for some programs. Of course, we won't have only programs that you have to pay for, but we will have some. Okay, so I think that gets us to the end of income streams and what's behind those numbers and what you can do to help. All right, let me stop for a moment and ask, with regard to income streams, does anybody have questions?
She started to go out and give out bags for the homeless. Have you looked into, there are federal grants that some of the mega churches actually use when they're doing outreach. Have anybody looked into any of the federal grants?
I don't believe so, but Mari, could you make a note of that? To do things like outreach, projects.
Yeah, when you do outreach, you can
Yeah.
get federal money
Oh,
for it.
okay. All right, thank you.
I actually have two, and I think they're quick. When you were comparing how many people aren't here anymore and all about affecting the budget, is there any comparison to where we were a year ago, how many that had happened compared to how many? Do we have more this year that have done that than normal?
I do not know, I don't specifically know the answer to that. Anecdotally, I think it's similar.
Okay.
But I think we would have to go and really look that up, but I think that's similar. I think what might be different, perhaps, is that the higher number of people that pledge, which is a good thing, there's also the higher percentage chance when we lose people that they were a pledger.
Yeah.
You see, and more people are pledging every year, which that's a good thing, but that's one of the potential downsides.
And the other thing on getting money from activities, whatever you called it, the MCCs of Florida are meeting here. Is there anticipated any income we would get from that, or is it just a cost wash?
Well, whatever income is created will go to the Florida network. Yeah, yeah.
I knew there was something.
Yeah, because Reverend Vicky be all over us about that. Wait, is she here? All right. Okay, anybody else quickly? All right, let's move on to expense. Okay, so we have expense overages as well as income deficits. So salaries, payroll, taxes, and benefits. So I want you to see that. Those are just not salaries, but there's all the other expense of having staff and having employees. Our budget year to date through end of July, 162,253. Our actual intake was 158,136. So our variance is 4,116,25. So I think that number's not right. Is that right? It just should be. That's right. Okay. We're good on that front. We're good on that front. Credit card fees, $59.50. Our actual outlay for that has been $968, $686.49. And so credit card fees. Now, I'll talk about that in a minute, but $3,700 deficit. Buildings and grounds, we had budgeted year-to-date $581. We've had $6,500 worth of expenditures on the property, and that makes us $5,900 behind. Worship, budgeted year-to-date $1,258. We've spent $2,350, so we're behind a little more than $1,000. And then for programs, what we budgeted was $1,663 to spend. What we've actually spent is $6,200, so a deficit of $46. Now I'll give you behind the numbers so you don't gasp too much. Okay, there are explanations for these things. Okay, so salaries. We decided to pay our pianist, Christina, more than we had budgeted, so it caused us to run a deficit. Does anybody want us to get rid of Christina, though? No. I mean, she has been a godsend after looking for a pianist, really, ever since the pandemic, like a pianist to pay every Sunday and for rehearsals. So she's been a blessing to us, but we did have to pay more to get her. Although I think what we learned is that what we pay her is the going pay. We're not paying her, exorbitantly. We're just paying her what most musicians and pianists would get. And we've paid the sound tech to do additional services and events that were not budgeted. So we've asked Jules to do, like today, do extra things, and we failed to put that in the budget. Okay? All right, so what can we do? By the way, some of the irony here is that there are things on the income side that the staff can do, and we work on it all the time. But mostly income, is really up to you. And the expense management is up to us, right? So most of the things that are on the what we can do are staff related. And so we own that, we know that, and we take it seriously. Okay, so because of some of the other deficits, we have made the decision to discontinue paying a sound tech and to discontinue paying an administrative person for the remainder of the year. And so your 3 full-time staff, so Reverend Collis and JT and me, we have divvied up and absorbed the admin responsibilities, and Barb as well, so that we can cover that till the end of the year. The savings on those 2 things is almost $20,000. So that will be a significant help in the back half of the year, okay? All right. So other things we can do, we've moved to a new giving system, PushPay, that is saving us money on credit card transactions because of the feature that gives those who use it the opportunity to pay the fees. So those of you who've been using PushPay, you know, you get a question that says, would you like to pay the fee? PushPay also reduces our fees for every transaction from 6% to 3%. So that's a huge savings, even if people don't pay for the fee. And PushPay's also increased our giving. We should feel the good of this in the back half of the year. We've already felt a little bit of it, but that will certainly come to fruition in the new year. I mean, in the rest of the year. Okay. All right, then buildings and grounds. Due to a storm, the AIDS Memorial tree came down. I imagine most of you've noticed that. When it fell, it damaged the fence, and it's the fence line with the HOA, the housing complex behind us. And we also discovered when it fell that the tree was rotten, so we had to have it cut down all the way. So that was an expense we didn't look for. We didn't plan for. We didn't know that was going to happen. We did take care of all of that, but what we haven't done is rebuild a memorial there. And World AIDS Day is coming up in December, so we're going to have to think about what to do around that. But we have not spent money to rebuild a memorial of some kind there. If you go over to our office, you will see that we have cubicles for the office that we purchased. They were used cubicles, and we just don't have any room over there, so we needed something to cordon off spaces so we have a place for everybody to work. Those cubicles cost $1,500. We did get a special gift of $1,000 for that, but it still put us $500 more than we had budgeted on buildings and grounds. What can we do? We can borrow from our contingency funds, which is what we had to do for the repair of the fence and cutting down the tree. Some could offer special gifts to cover some of these things. If the sale of the land comes through next year, the deferred maintenance of our buildings and land should be a part of the conversation, because you can kind of hear, we're trying to keep things moving as best we can with buildings and grounds, but especially Pierce Hall and the office and a lot of our trees. But the 2 buildings, as I understand it, are very fragile. They have been here the whole time this property existed. This is a newer building, but those were here when the land was purchased. So we have a lot of conversations to have about that in the event that the land sells, which it looks like it probably will. So those are all things we can do. All right, the numbers behind worship. Expenditures for worship were made in the first half of the year that will take us through to the end of the year. But the budget allocation is spread over 12 months. Y'all understand? We had an amount of money. We used most of it in the first 6 months, so we don't plan to use much, if any, in the last 6 months. Examples of what we purchase around worship, this is only a few, just to give you an idea. The cloth we have, so they're cloths that are different colors that match the liturgical years. So we purchase those. Our altar coverings, those tend to match our series. Just like this one, was an Amazon purchase. Candles, communion wafers, all of these things are things that are part of worship. There are other things too. I just wanted to give you an idea of that. What can we do? We can make sure we don't spend any more money this year, which is the plan. All right. Okay, behind the numbers for program expense. We anticipated that there'd be a much greater participation in the programs that bore a cost. Even though the prices for programs were very reasonable and much less than a night out to dinner, but participation did not meet our projections. So this created a challenge because we purchased materials for programs based on our projections. So we buy books for book studies, we buy flip charts, we buy markers, we buy coloring books for meditation, we buy, all that kind of thing, anticipating, and that did not meet our expectations there. We fronted money to buy t-shirts and other swag, and we'll get some of that back as we sell things, okay? So that's what we can do. Next. Okay. We've been working on a new approach to programming for the fall and hope it will increase participation. We can work toward adding more value to the programs that bear a cost, so we're going to do our own look at that and really try to work on it. We did not use the $2,000 that was budgeted for our staff retreat in the summer and instead had the retreat in one of our homes. So that we have 2 staff retreats a year. In February, we always have it in one of our homes, so we stay here, it doesn't cost anything. And then in the summer, in July, August, we usually go away somewhere, and we budgeted $2,000 for that. We did not spend it, so that's one of the things we're doing that help the programming line. This is what you can do, take programming more seriously as a congregation, because all of them are designed to assist us in growing in our spiritual lives. So I'm not sure what all that means, but that is something to say about your engagement. And I'm going to be your pastor for a minute and say, it's distressing for me when we don't participate in programming, because here's why. You don't get spiritual growth in 20 minutes of a sermon on Sunday. That's not how that happens. That's a deeper engagement, and that's what programs are for. So I think that's something that I'd like to ask all of you to think about. Okay, so as a summary, in income, keep your pledge commitments, consider a special gift if you can, help with and support fundraisers, and believe in what we're doing. That's always a very helpful piece. On the expense side summary, staff have cut salaries, integrated push pay, and cut staff retreat expenditure. We've reimagined programming, and you can also give special gifts, if you're able, to the places where we've had expense overages. So this is our sort of major overview of what's behind the numbers, what are the things we are doing already, and what you can do to help. So I hope that at least, none of us are happy about this, but I hope you at least can see we're being transparent about the reasons and some of the things behind the numbers. So it's not just a red number, there are specific reasons that these things are going on. So I want to remind you that when in November last year at our congregational meeting, we voted for this budget. And we all knew it was going to be a stretch. And we knew that hiring a young adult minister was going to be the stretch. And ironically, our deficit is about the same amount as his salary that we operationalized. We paid for part of it from the music investment, but we paid the other half of it putting it in the budget. So that's about where our deficit is. And so if we're honest, that's where we are. We all voted to do it. Now we've got to find a way to support it. Now, what I'm going to do is ask JT to come up, because even though we're at a deficit that's about the amount of that part we pay him, the results we're getting are more than we would have imagined. So we're getting what we wanted to pay for, right? And I'm going to ask him to come and share with you this really great news.
Good morning. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you for listening intently and sticking with it. The business of the church is hard. It's hard to have family meetings, especially when money is tight. We've probably been in those meetings before, but I really appreciate that we are staying open and listening with open hearts. So this year we have focused on the idea of being edge walkers, about reclaiming our edge as Christians, about going into the community, going into spaces where a lot of churches don't want to go anymore. And we focused on the idea that God's agenda is love. Some of you are wearing the shirts, and there is no other agenda. And so we went to a bunch of different places. You can see photos right there from Pride events, from the school board to kickball. We invested a lot of time there. And we have said from the beginning that we have to go where they are if they're not currently here. We have to go where young adults are currently residing in order, if we want to have a relationship with them. So in my 29 weeks on staff, I counted this week, we have gone to about 43 events where we have made contact with young adults. So that's a little more than one a week. So you can see that we spent a big majority doing social justice ministry. That's SJM on the pie chart right there. A big chunk of what we did was social justice, which was something that we had kind of brainstormed and thought that's probably where young adults are going to connect with us in the best way. We also went to the SRQ Kickball League, the LGBTQ Kickball League. Reverend Lily is the chaplain there, and she and I would sit off to the side, and I would watch my honey, Jorge, play and try not to hurt himself. We also had countless... I love you, dear. We also had countless meetings at the Sarasota County School Board. You've heard me beat that drum over and over again. We spoke at rallies. We've gone to the Sea Alliance. We've strategized of how we can get our message across, and it is paying off. They've come to us, too, and we'll get to that in a moment. And we've had about 6 Pride event or other events where we've been able to make contact with young adults. So our generosity campaign this year, our scripture was give, and it will be given to you. So that's what we gave, what I just talked about. Let's talk about what's been given to us. So we had our Pride Day of Service in June. Some of you attended that, and thank you for that. We went to them, and now they're coming to us. And so I have a few numbers I want to share with you. So we had about 16 people total attend, and people who were like, oh, I totally wanted to come, but I couldn't. So I think it'll grow for future years. But over 50% in attendance were young adults. We had 6 people from outside the church who do not attend, who do not have any sort of relationship with the church. We prepared about 104 blessing bags with oranges, umbrellas, water, and then a blessing for them. And we served locations Central Avenue by Salvation Army, the Selby Library area, the downtown Sarasota bus station, and Main Street. I just want to say beyond the numbers, I heard a lot more about impact at that event, which is really fabulous. I had so many people who were like, I didn't know that this is what it was like for people who were unhoused or in need. And it made me really appreciative of what I have. But I also heard from people who said, you know, a really dear friend of mine, I have a lot of trauma from going to church. And I don't think I'll ever step foot in a sanctuary again. I don't think I'll ever go to a service. But I can do this as a spiritual practice, and I would love to do this as a spiritual practice again. And that's huge. The other thing that I think is really telling for us and something that shocked me, God has really impressed me with the chance that we took here. I had people who said, you know, I haven't been to church in a while because I do have a lot of trauma, and you guys are giving me the hope that maybe one day I can step foot in church again. That is incredible news. We should all be happy about that. We also saw young adults come to our trivia night, our first trivia night fundraiser. So that's a picture of the table that Jorge and I sponsored with some of my young adult friends, but they weren't just my people. We had, out of the 112 that I counted who attended trivia, 36 of them were young adults. That means a third of the audience were young adults. That is huge. Especially since the first trivia, the young adults in the room might have been some of Janalee and Al's children and myself. That is a huge, huge mark of growth. I also have some more numbers about what's going on with young adults. So we've had in 29 weeks here, 29 Sundays, 106 instances of young adults participating in worship. That's reading, that's singing in the choir, that's playing piano, that's working in the media booth, that's doing hospitality. 106 instances where that happened. We also have had 60 unique young adults who've either come to worship or who have gone to an alternate service like the next Benedict Memorial, the Juneteenth celebration, or come to dinner church as well. Now, this number right here really makes me happy because I thought for a while I was the only adult going to programs whenever I was a congregant, not on staff here. But we have had 37% of the programs that we ran this year have had at least 2 young adults in them. I'll go further to say that out of all the programs, 58% of them have had at least 1 young adult involved at it. So things are shifting. I hope you can feel what's happening in this congregation and that people are really starting to engage with us. And even if they're not engaging today or next Sunday or for the rest of this year, something is turning in their hearts. They're seeing that we are living God's agenda, that we're living our goal of being edge walkers this year. They don't see us like most Christians, is the thing that I always get. It's like, there's Christians who come to the school board and they pray and say that God's angry, and then there's you all who say God is love, and because God is love, we're here and showing up. So don't underestimate the impact that we're having in our community. And just because they're not coming into this space doesn't mean that we are not ministering to them and affecting them. So many of them just talk to me all the time about, you guys are doing Jesus' work. You guys are being like Jesus. And if we go out in the community and invest more, we can see a bigger return on that. We also have in our social media front, that was something that I was charged with as the young adult minister, was to upgrade our social media. So I had some numbers about that. So first I want to look at Facebook. So we have increased our reach in Facebook. Reach is the way that our content we publish gets out to people. Some of that is through natural means, some of that is through advertisements, but we have gone up 4.2% with a reach of about 25,000. That's huge for a little church like us. So we've also grown to about 1.8K followers. Our content interactions and link clicks is something I want to make a distinction about. So you can see maybe you can see it, or maybe you can't. In interactions, we've gone down 8.9%, and then in link clicks, we've gone down 84%. That is lower than it was this time last year, and there's a big reason for that. At the beginning half of last year, we were actually live streaming our service directly to Facebook. In the middle of the year, we switched to streaming it to YouTube. So because we were streaming it on Facebook, that's where a lot of our content interactions were coming from, and so many were coming through on the live stream and not our regular content. So that's why we're seeing those numbers go down. What I'm really thrilled to say is that our Instagram presence has grown. So our reach is now 3.4K. It has gone up 1.6,000% from where it was. When I first got here, Instagram was just sort of something that, there was an automatic post that had the same graphic every week, and it was like, click this link to see what's going on in the church. And now we're using it in a much smarter way. The reason why I'm really happy about this is that Instagram seems to be the platform that most young adults are using right now. They may have a Facebook, they may not. They may have a TikTok, they may not. But they certainly have Instagram. So we're finding ways to interact with them better. You can see our interactions are up 100%. We're gaining more followers, and it's only growing. I see places like the Sea Alliance, also youth, places where young people are inhabiting, and they're using Instagram. So we can get better about that, and we can only grow from here. But I'm very happy to see that our reach has included more young people on Instagram. And our newest social media is TikTok. So I have 2 metrics right there. And we have I checked this morning, a little over 1,200 followers in our TikTok, which is huge, starting in February. We had none. And the algorithm is a lot different. So Facebook and Instagram are places where people follow us, people who know us are a part of it. This is really stretching beyond Florida, beyond Sarasota, even beyond the country. We're seeing people from all over the world, really, who are looking at our content. Now, we have the naysayers, but we really have a lot of people who are loving. So we've had 113K views for different posts that we've had, about 2,500 profile views, people looking at us, seeing what we're about, over 7,000 likes, over 1,500 comments, and then close to 2,000 shares of our content. That is huge. People, I'll give you an anecdote that I'll just get you in 1 second. So many people will DM, direct message on Instagram and say, I didn't know that God loved me. And your church is giving me hope. Is there a way that I can watch you all online? Or I watched you all online and it was really, really cool that you guys use secular music and pop music. I'd never seen people do that in worship before. Or people saying, hey, I really need a spiritual community. Do you know if there's a church nearby where I live? I live in part of New York. Is there a church like yours that you can direct me to? And we can spread our wider MCC message that way. All through social media, stuff that maybe we don't use every day, but it's something that's really important to have a healthy congregation so people know who we are and what we're doing. So there's a graph to the left right there that's a little hard to see, but I'll basically tell you. We saw a huge spike in our engagement in TikTok in the month of June. We also saw very controversial sermons, and today they're still, I'll say a 4-letter word. They're bitching about what Lily preached about last week. It's really funny to me that people get really upset about someone saying that God is love. That's edgy, apparently, and we're going to keep saying it. We need to keep saying it. So you'll see that the graph doesn't really exist until about February there. It's all the big spike in June. We've gone back down too, because our sermons are a little more controversial. But something Lily and I talked about was we're really finding our edginess through all of this. And we talk about being an edge walker. A lot of times, what we've seen in the bigger MCC movement is that people have wanted the church to be legitimate, or they don't want to ruffle too many feathers. But what we're seeing is that our growth is happening because we are edgy. And we have to own that we're edgy and that we are different. And, the fact that we're a queer organization, even though we have straight folks here too, it's an important thing. It's an important distinction than a lot of mainline denominations. And if we can own our edginess, this will only skyrocket as we consistently post. So those are my updates for young adults here. I think I had a question in the back. We can get her a mic.
A lot of TikTok videos end up on Facebook, which is like I share and then I forward them and to other people. So that would impact TikTok as well as Facebook.
So it would impact the numbers for Facebook. That's a really good thing. So I share a lot of our TikTok stuff across all platforms. I can share it to Instagram and share it to Facebook as well. So you can see it wherever. You don't have to download TikTok. If you'd like to download TikTok and follow us, I'm not going to complain. That only helps our numbers and boost us a little bit. But it does share that way. And because you share it with friends, that boosts our engagement as well. So a like, a comment, a share with a friend is really, really good for our social media numbers and helps us create a bigger impact as far as social media goes. She's bringing a mic.
I just gotta say this. I turned the TV on the other day, and PBS was on, and you were on there.
Was I?
I went, oh my Lord, that's JT. I was so impressed. I don't know what you were doing, but you were there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. We got cameras everywhere. I think we got Michael right here.
I can say hello now. You mentioned before.
It's online.
Okay, great. You mentioned that the services were changed from Facebook over to YouTube. What was the reasoning for that, and what advantages are you seeing in it?
Yeah, so you can probably answer that better.
Between me and Jesse, we can answer that. A lot of times with Facebook, we were having issues with bandwidth and uploading and it staying a constant stream. And so we made the decision to go YouTube because we weren't seeing that. We did it simultaneously for a bit just to measure. And YouTube is a much more consistent stream for folks, and we found that it doesn't really matter where we do it as long as people know where to find it, and we get lots of that information out both during the week and on the weekends, and it's primary on our page. So we've seen a lot more interaction, I think, with that. So Jesse, did I do okay with that?
Oh, look at
She said
that.
I was perfect. Hey,
Jesse,
hey.
we're going to be dealing with that for the rest of the week. Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
I misquoted, I'm sorry. I'm
Thank
not
you, thank
really
you.
perfect.
Yeah, Brian.
Did you tell Lillian about any of our conversations that we've had?
Not yet, not yet. We have a staff meeting tomorrow, and we'll talk about it.
Did you also reach out to the chamber event that's going to be at LECOM?
I have not yet, but I will get it on my list.
Okay.
That'd be great.
While kind of JT and I have had this conversation, can community health, our street team goes out almost every day between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. in Manatee County and Sarasota County. And we deal with pretty much everything. We see everything. There's 2 community officers within Manatee County Sheriff's Office that we deal with. And JT and I have had this discussion, and he will talk to Lily more in regards to that. But when there's outreach, I see it. Actually, before I came to church, there was a gentleman, actually Jim was waiting for me. He wanted to get himself checked in because he had a drug addiction problem. And we got him the help that he needed. So there's a big need in this community, and hopefully this church can reach out and help that need.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I think our blessing bag ministry is one of the ways we've been able to do acts of mercy and stay in our lane as spiritual people in the way that we can be a part of the change because it takes a village for all of us. We got Susan in the back.
I just have a quick question. Are we going to still have the same sound tech, or is that going to be shared responsibility?
Yeah, we are moving to using volunteers for that shared responsibility.
I have a question. JT, can you close your eyes for a moment? I don't want to tell it. How many of you have Facebook? Just like give me a, how many of you know how to share something on Facebook? All right, so if you will just, when you see Church of the Trinity, just hit the share button and let it go, you will be amazed at how many people we can reach.
Yeah.
That's one of the best ways to utilize Facebook specifically, is to use the share feature for us. And so you just share it, post it, and roll. Okay, you can open your eyes now.
Oh,
See, I
thank
didn't
you.
want him to come and
Thank you.
all of y'all.
Yeah, I wasn't going to judge, but
Sure.
yeah. I did grow up Catholic. We know how to use guilt. So, any other questions?
Investment.
Yeah. So in 6 months, I hope you all realize that's a lot, what he just shared with us. That's a lot of progress. So he's been worth every penny that we said we wanted to put out there to make sure we do this ministry. And I just want to remind us that if we want this church to be here in 20 years, we've got to invest in him and in this work, right? So I appreciate the commitment we all made, and I think we'll see it through. And I think if we'll just do our part, you all know I trust God completely to fill in the gaps.
Yes.
I don't know what that's going to look like or how that's going to come, but I trust it. That's right. I don't trust it unless we do our part, okay? So I think that's the co-creation with God. But JT, thank you so much. You have been diligent. I know you work day and night trying to go to places where young people are. And it's obviously making a huge difference, because we started at zero, mostly, except for you and Jorge.
Yeah, Delia, Julia.
So the fact that the engagement is so much better just in 6 months, I think we all need to feel really, really excellent about that. Before we go, the 2 announcements, I'm going to let him make them.
No, did we have any online questions? No. Okay, thank you.
Because they're really of his making, and it has everything. It will affect us all, but it certainly will affect our young adult outreach. Okay, go.
Before I do that, I want to tell one more anecdote. I'm a storyteller. I was a theater maker, so I like stories. One of our young adults who started to become involved with us showed up at dinner church once, and then has been around different places, came to Theology on Tap, a program. I think the last Theology on Tap we had more young people than...
We had more than older, more younger than older.
Which was fabulous for that type of event. But he shared with me, I have been looking at your website, I've been looking at all your messaging and seeing how wonderful it is, and I really love what you have to say, but I just keep looking because there's got to be a catch somewhere,
You're
right?
hiding something.
You've got to be hiding something. And so then he came to worship with a friend, and then I hugged him, and I said, so good to see you. I said, well, he finally came to worship, so what do you think? And he said, you're not hiding anything. You guys are exactly who you say you are. And I think we all need to pat ourselves on the back for that, because that is huge. That people who have been damaged by it or know that churches can damage and are looking for some reason to believe that we're not who we say we are, and then they come here and they're like, this is exactly what I needed. Or I had always hoped that I would find a church like this. That is huge. It is huge. So what's to come is really, really great. I'm happy to announce that we are going to launch a redesigned website for Church of the Trinity. Whoop, whoop. We're going to make sure that it's more modern and slick. You can see a screenshot right there. We want it to be easy to navigate. You can't really see it from that screenshot, but at the top there's navigation buttons and about us, ways to find different things for life events like baptisms, weddings, memorial services, which also could help with our income as well. There's a big, bright donate button in the top right corner. A big part of why we want to do this. So when someone Googles LGBTQ affirming church, LGBTQ welcoming church, if we show up there and they currently click on our homepage, it's great and it gets the job done, but it doesn't really communicate who we are. And they have to scroll all the way down to try to find what information they're looking for. And we want them to feel welcome from the first time they engage with us. The welcoming doesn't start just when they come onto the property, but it starts long before it. I used to say that to my interns who worked in the box office at the theater, just like the patron experience starts when they call you in the box office, or it starts whenever they get their first mailing from you. So this is our way to start their experience with Church of the Trinity in a way that looks inviting and friendly. I mean, right there we're at a Pride, and you can see the diversity in our congregation. We've got young people, we've got someone who's Hispanic, we've got older people, we've got people who are queer, people who are straight. We got you there. You're in it. So we telegraph that information to them. And we want to be more intentional in the way that we design our website, and that it's not just we slap something out there, but there's a look that we want to create. because that looks more like the bigger church. And if we want to get big, we have to act big.
That's right, that's right.
You have something in the back, my dear?
Yes, from Barb, she said, keep in mind that in 1968, MCC was started by a 28-year-old.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Good
yes.
point, yes.
So for those of you who didn't hear
That's
that,
right. Yeah.
Barb Crabtree, our accountant, said that in 1968, MCC, our denomination, was started by a 28-year-old. We've always been the church of now and the church of let's go and let's do it. So we have to reclaim that sometimes, but we will. I know we will. So that is our idea of the website, of making it bolder and brighter and show exactly who we are, so nobody has to think of like, I don't know about these people. No, we need to show who we are through our website, because we really get that one click, and if they're not engaged, then they probably won't show up here. We also have a really exciting thing with our PushPay integration. We received the option to develop an app for our church. And this is really, really exciting. We're going to launch it in a few weeks. So this was a huge benefit to switching to PushPay, and one of the big reasons we thought we needed this. We've been saying forever, we need an app. We need a way for people to grab this information. We live on our cell phones a lot. A lot of our information is in our devices. And so it's important that we have ease of use whenever we're trying to get our information. So we're going to be able to use this church app to do things like sign up for events and programs. We're going to be able to do things like give and do our tithing directly on the app and pull up our own giving history. We'll be able to do things like submit prayer requests. We'll be able to access the live stream on Sunday mornings directly from our device. It also integrates with CCB. So if you're leading a program and you need to be able to text someone within your group, you don't have to get out your computer, log into CCB and try to find them, or try to do it on your phone in a mobile browser that doesn't support it. You will be able to pull it up, find your group right there, and send a message directly to all of them, which is really great. And things like attendance and all of that, there's functionality of being able to make sermon study guides with fill in the blanks, to where if we wanted to make sure you were taking notes, you could do that directly in your app. Michael?
I have a question. When's the launch of the app? And second of all, is this being done internally, or is it actually being done by a company putting this together?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the app launch will be September 8th, which will be our next program launch, and the website launch on the same day. We'll roll it all out. And so the PushPay developers actually built the app for us. And so now it works. They built and designed the app based off of our website, based off of the information we provided them about who our church is. And so now we get to update it and make it work within the parameters that they have set up for us. It's free with our PushPay membership.
This is a part of the package.
Mm-hmm.
Why we went with them, because it offered us a custom app along with the pay features.
One last thing. Any ideas on the website redesign? Who should those comments go toward?
They should go to me.
Very good.
Yeah, they should go to me. If you have things about the website, they should come directly to me. Another thing about the website, you brought it up with the app, so I'll bring it up with the website. We currently use Squarespace as our host platform, and this is just an updated template from the same platform, so we're not spending money to get a new template or a new redesign out there. The only money we're spending is the money that you pay me. So it's a part of my work, and I'm already managing the website, so we are just gonna launch this new look to match what we feel about Church of the Trinity. Thank you.
All right, we promised to get you out of here by 12:30. We're a little over. Hopefully, though, it's worth it. So these are great announcements. This is going to be a really wonderful uptick for us with the church app, especially, I think. So anyway, thank you again for being here. If you'll rise as you're able, we're going to do what we have often done, and it seems like the right words for today is to pray the scripture. And we're going to do that with God. I'll say it, and then we can say it together. God, who began a good work in us, will be faithful. Will be faithful to complete it. I'll say it again. God who began a good work in us will be faithful to complete it. Let's say it together. God who began a good work in us will be faithful to complete it. Now pray it like you mean it. God who began a good work in us will be faithful to complete it. And all God's people said,
Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all.
If you would like a copy of the presentation today, I have some. If you'd like to absorb it further or need to look at it more closely. There you go.